Hello, my name is Roy Canterbury. I'm going to be your host today on Arch Talk 101. And today, what we'd like to talk about is target panic, what causes it, and how to fix it. There are several different things that goes on with target panic, but let me just explain kind of what's going on with target panic. What that is you're getting ready to shoot, and all of a sudden your mind says, "Don't shoot." So you have that shoot, don't shoot situation going on, and you have a nice little jerk as you're going on. You just kind of flinch. What's caused that is when you're looking at your pin and not your target, and putting your finger on the trigger, and you're trying to time it when the pin moves over the target. You're taking your finger and you're very quickly moving your finger. That's if you're using a caliper type release. So we'll go over that. There's a little bit different things you can do with fingers as well as a handheld release. So we'll start with the caliper type release. So what you're doing is as that pin goes across the target, you see it over the target. Your eyes see it over the target. Your mind says, pull the trigger. So now you start pulling the trigger, and now all of a sudden that pin moves off your target, not where you want it. And the mind says, emergency, abort, I quit, stop shooting. And that's where your target panic's coming in. What it is your mind is trying to tell your body what to do, and it's not doing it fast enough. So either you're going to have a super fast trigger pull, which is still not going to solve your problem, because your mind is still going to say, "Oh, don't shoot." So your pin comes across your target, shoot, moves off your target, don't shoot, and that's where your target panic comes in. You start doing all these little jerking motions. So now, one of the ways to fix it for all forms of target shooting is to look at the target. Don't look at your pins, because you don't care about where the pins are as much as where the target is. Focus on the target and not the pins. So now your pin is going to float over your target. It's going to move. Nobody's going to be able to hold it perfectly still. It's just next to impossible for a human to hold perfectly still while they're doing that. So don't even try. Go ahead and let it float. It's going to move around. Maybe it floats around in like a figure eight pattern or something, or it moves up or down in circles, or however it moves, let it move. And just try. What you're doing is you're focused on the spot, and the pin will eventually float over that spot you're aiming at. And now what you want to do is not using your finger to pull the trigger. Remember, when you do that, you're going to have problems. So just a little sidetrack here, a little experiment to show you why you don't want to use your finger to pull the trigger, because that's one, it causes target panic. So get in your shooting form. If you're right-hander or left hand, doesn't matter. Point your bow, your hand, you normally hold the bow in it, and concentrate on some small object, like you got a door handle or something off at a distance. Make sure it's a good 20 yards away if possible. If you're doing it in the house, just pick something really small and focus on that spot only. Don't think about nothing else. Now, if your finger extended out like you normally shoot at that finger pointing out, like everybody does, and try and pull that trigger. Now, without thinking about the finger, make it move. Okay, remember, you're concentrating on the spot only. Just concentrate it, like if you take your gaze off of it, something's going to happen bad. Well, it will, because you're going to miss target, but just concentrate on that, as nothing else matters except your focus on that one spot. And now, without thinking about the finger, make it move. You cannot do it. It's two fine motor skills. You can't do two fine motor skills at a time. The example of that is pat your head and rub your tummy, and then switch hands and try and do it. Unless you really work on it for hours and hours, you're not going to be able to do it. There's other exercises, making your fingers go different ways, all kinds of different things you can do. You're not going to be able to do it. So now let's go in the proper way to shoot, which is going to eliminate your target panic, because you're not thinking about where the pin is. You're going to put your pin somewhere over the target. You concentrate on the spot you're going to shoot at, whether it's your X-ring or whatever target it is. Put your spot over there, put the pin over it. Now, you're going to move the trigger from the tip of the finger back 2 knuckles. Let your hand relax, completely relaxed hand. Now, put that hand up there, and now when you get ready to shoot, all you're going to do is squeeze your shoulder blades together like you're trying to hold a pencil, and that hand will move back, and that will fire the bow. You're not going to be able to know exactly when it goes off because you're not pulling on a trigger. So that's a surprise firing. Now, one good way to test this out to see, I've done this many times with new archers where I have them, all they're doing is aiming their fingers off the trigger. And I say, okay, go ahead and aim. And they're aiming, they're pulling back on it to hold it. And I'll reach up there, have my finger by the trigger, and I will pull the trigger for them. That is what a surprise release is supposed to feel like. And now 9 times out of 10, they hit the spot they're aiming at because their only one job is to draw the bow back, store energy, and aim. Let your subconscious, your big muscles do the shooting for you. So that is how you're going to eliminate the target panic, is quit thinking about pulling the trigger. When you think about pulling the trigger, you can try this as you're doing that little experiment. As you're thinking about pulling the trigger, what did you stop doing? You stopped aiming. So now what are you going to hit? Don't know because you're not aiming. You're just pointing in that direction and pulling the trigger. So that's something to eliminate target panic. That's what you're going to have to do. Now let's get into the handheld releases because a lot of people shoot those. I shoot both. Now with the handheld, a lot of people think that you're going to put that trigger on your thumb and you're going to pull the trigger with your thumb. The problem with using your thumb, they call them a thumb release, which is incorrect because your thumb's not actually pulling a trigger, but the trigger is down by your thumb. So now you're going to take your thumb, which has less dexterity than the index finger, and now you're going to try and fire that release with something that has less dexterity and less control. Have to think about it more than you do the index finger. So what you're going to do is there's a little webbing between where your index finger and your thumb meet, right there at your hand. You want to have that release, but the trigger is right there. Now, you're just going to relax your hand as well. Not going to relax as much because you actually have to hold the release in your hand, but you're going to put it right there. And now you're going to do the same thing. You draw it back, you get your anchor point, and now you don't pull the trigger. You don't even squeeze your hand. You have the pressure on it. Now with the same back muscles you used earlier, we're going to pull that back. And as that hand rolls back, it's going to fire that release. So that's how you eliminate target panic with a handheld release. So now let's get into one that the traditional archers are going to use. Most of your compound bows now, you're not going to be able to shoot with fingers because they're just too short. The finger pinch is just too severe. And when one of my bows when I first got, I was shooting fingers because I used to shoot in recurves. And my ring finger would go numb on me after shooting a few times. So I went to release and solved the problem. So now with your fingers, you're going to get one of those same things where now normally it's more instinctive. So you're more concentrating on your target, not on where your arrow is, unless you put pins on it. And in case you're using pins, it's the same basic concept. So you're going to go through, you're going to aim at your target. You're going to come back with your fingers. You're going to anchor to the corner of your mouth like you normally do, unless you're doing Olympic style. Now you're anchoring down lower. So where you're anchoring doesn't really matter. What matters is how you're letting go of that string. When you loose the string, it's called when you let go of the string. Do you leave your fingers locked in your face, just kind of open them? Do you open them, pull your hand away? All that, your hand's still going to float. And you're looking there, and all of a sudden it comes by you where you think you want to be, and all of a sudden you open your hand. Well, what happens is you move over, you start to open your hand, and then you stop. Well, the problem with the recurve and longbows is that string is right on the tip of your finger. Once you start moving, it's going to go off because you're not really putting it clear back under your fingers. It's normally going to go between your fingertip and your first knuckles where you're going to put that string. So there's not a lot holding it on. So that's what you're going to have to do for there. So now how do you solve that shooting fingers? Well, what you're going to do is you draw back, normally going to use your back muscles, and that hand's going to come back towards your shoulder. Well, with a recurve, you need to have it come back. You're going to pivot a little bit differently. instead of pivoting around the center of your back and pulling, pushing one forward, and come back, now you're going to roll that around, keep it in contact with your face. Instead of just coming straight back like you would with a caliper type or handheld, you're going to actually go across your face and come back. So that's a little bit different. And as you're doing that, you're pulling back and you're relaxing your hand at the same time. The string should not move back. It should stay there. As you move back and pull that back, now then you're going to come back here to where your hand goes around your face and back to your shoulder, or with the calipers and release, it comes back a little bit further back to your shoulder instead of around your face, just because the way they're a little bit different. So that's kind of things you can do to eliminate target panic. I haven't seen as many traditional archers use it with target panic unless they're shooting like the Olympic style where you have pins, and they're the same thing. You're going to have to look at the target, not the pins, because you cause the same problem. So that's kind of a little bit on target panic and what causes it and how to fix it. If you have any questions, you can always get a hold of me, and I can take a look and see what you're doing. You can get a hold of me in several different ways. One way is to join the Archer Talk 101 Facebook group. I'll leave a link in the description below on how you can get in there, and then you can communicate with me as well as other archery instructors and bow techs to help you solve your problems. So that's one way you can get a hold of me. The other way is I have archertalk101.com. You can go out there and there will be posts to different articles that I've posted on there on how to do different things, as well as any products that I've used or recommend. You'll have links in there to go out and buy those, make it a little easier for you to find them. Then there's also a coaching program. I have a coaching program that has started, both private and group coaching. They're all done live via Zoom calls. So we'll be one-on-one with them. And what I'm offering right now for my listeners is a free 15-minute consultation call. So I'll leave a link in there how to book that call, and what you need to do for that. And then the call will go over, is coaching for you? What can we do? What are your problems that you're having? What can we do to solve it? As well as, does coaching make sense for you? If it doesn't make sense, then it's not worth it. But if it makes sense, you can do that. I've been teaching archery since 1995, taught hundreds of people how to shoot. And I mostly work with beginners. I figure they're the ones that need the most help. As you get intermediate, you're still needing help. A lot of the advanced, like the Olympic archers, they have a personal coach that works with them on a weekly, daily basis, and they're paying them to help them get to the next step. So I'm offering a free consultation call for those that are interested. Just get a hold of me in one of the links in the description, and let's take your archer skills to the next level. Once again, my name is Roy Canterbury, and I've been your host today on Archer Talk 101.